Okay, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Monroe County Stormwater Management Board. It is Wednesday, May 15th at 3 p.m. And our first order of business is public input for items not on the agenda. If there's anyone...
Oh, we need... Sorry, I thought we were calling a roll. I guess we don't do that here.
No, we don't, Tron. You've been saying that for 3 years now.
I don't have a... I'll wait for public. I do have one comment afterward.
If anyone has comment to make, they can come up. I'm not sure where they come up to.
There's at the table, there's a couple of mics.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay, they can come up to the table here. Or if you're on Teams, please raise your hand. And seeing no one, the next order of business is approval of the minutes for April 10th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
I will move to approve the minutes for
President.
April 10th, 2024. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Oh, I guess we need to have a roll call vote.
We need a roll call vote, yeah.
Lee?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Penny?
Yes.
And Tron?
Yes, and I just wanted to make one comment that I have another board of directors meeting at 4:15 your time, 3:15 my current time. So I will have to depart at that time. I'm actually in the room where we'll facilitate the meeting, and I just wanted to let everyone know if I have to abruptly leave the meeting.
Well, we should try to get through all the business that requires a quorum.
And my vote's yes. I'm sorry. I don't know if I started with that.
I got it.
Okay. Next, the next item of business is the stormwater expenditure reports for April 24th. April 2024.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Our biggest expenditures for April was grass seed was $2379.86, and then also the traffic officers we spent $5,250, and on the Bean Blossom Creek task order number 1 was done. That was $10,774. And then the other big one was the Stip Road, Moores Creek. We spent $18,500.
Thank you. Yes.
This is more for Ms. Latonia, I think, than for Ms. Engel, but there are a couple categories where we've basically spent everything that was allocated for the year. Do we need to be worried about making amendments or changes? Or
yeah. The testing and sampling, we talked to Adam, and he said he doesn't believe he's going to order anything else for that for the rest of the year. And also on the mulching and stuff, we bought a lot of straw and grass seed so yeah, we think we're good on that too.
Yeah, the seed and straw is definitely a busy time of year for stabilization. That one, I'll keep a close eye on it if it gets close, but we've definitely stocked up for supplies for this planting season, so we'll keep an eye on that one.
And then it looked like drug testing also was, you expended a good bit of the budget so far, so.
Is it the drug testing line? We could do a transfer into that line if something else comes up this year. So thank you for keeping an eye on that.
I do read these things, you know.
I know you do.
Any further questions, comments? Are there, yes. Is there any public comment on this item? If you're on Teams, oh, yes. Oh, Lisa. Ms. Ridge.
So I didn't know if I want to address it while you're talking about the budget numbers. So back in when Terry began our program, and we kind of joint efforts between our bridge crew and our stormwater crews of who replaces pipes, what pipes, and et cetera. So we kind of developed a pattern there that our bridge crew would be replacing the pipes under the roads, and our bridge stormwater crews would do them if they are necessary for driveways, if it's creating a hazard on the roadway. Since then, the bridge crews funds for materials have taken a huge hit, especially with inflation. Just in 2024, they have replaced 66 pipes and 10 new ones. So 76 pipes in 4.5 months. And it has really depleted the backfill line, and it's depleting the pipes line. So my question to the board, or if I'd like to ask for permission from the board, is either we reconstruct what we're doing between the two crews to get it more even, or the bridge crew really needs the financial assistance for the materials. They have no problem of keeping up with the labor. This way it entitles the stormwater crew to go and do inlets and street sweeping and everything else that's required, for sinkholes that's required. But I would like to increase, even maybe get an additional in the backfill line for this year, and then increase that for 2025. Again, it's a benefit to all drainage around the county, and it wasn't ever split up this way, and we didn't replace the pipes that we're replacing at this point. So I don't know where you want me to discuss that at or at what point, but I wanted to get that out there to the board.
Is there an issue with, can we go ahead and move forward with this revised plan for addressing pipes and then change our budget for 2025? Is that possible to do that, or?
Yeah, I think with what I'm looking at my numbers for Cume Bridge, and the only thing that's not paid out of Cume Bridge, I mean, those are federal aid projects too that are paid out of Cume Bridge. So it's not just paying for a bridge crew and local pipes. So I think I can go ahead and get through this year because there's not a lot allocated for backfill and pipes in the stormwater budget. But in 2025, I would really like to either, like I said, either change it to where we're back to splitting up the pipes, or in between both budgets, or get financial assistance for those two line items, and keep the labor work all with the bridge crew.
Mm-hmm. Does that work for you, Ms. Tony?
Yeah,
I wanted to comment on it since it seems like we're making comments.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, so,
I'm open
I
for
think
suggestions here too.
Well, yeah. I think we just need to know the totality of this. We could be setting a precedent that we may not want to quite do at this point in juncture. So, the first thing that comes to mind is the long-term capital improvement plan that was adopted in 2016, 2017, that talked about 20 years of expenditures. I think we should really look at that and see what type of impact it's going to be for type of installation. And like, are we talking about, kind of a relief valve, or are we talking about taking on all of that installation? I'm sure there's some tangible numbers out there of like, what is the typical cost per year? And are we talking about costing of upkeep and maintenance and all of that? I mean, that could significantly switch things. If we add, dollars and budgets to one thing or one project, we're going to take from another project. So we really have to be a little mindful of like what we're thinking of our long-term goals of stormwater. Water quality is a big thing. We're kind of addressing water quantity, which is absolutely okay. But how is this going to benefit like the larger majority of ratepayers? I think we need to kind of get our P's and Q's in a line with kind of, maybe updating that long-term plan. That plan even had like cost associated with this and that, and inflation has taken over. So like, I think we have a good fundamental foundation to like start prioritizing and looking at this. And, a lot of more information, I think, is needed in like planning. Like, what's our goal? What's our plan? Like, what for this? I generally think we need to move with a high level of caution. I do know we have available funds, but I know that these projects cost a lot too, or we would be having this conversation. And Lisa, I know that you're trying to do your absolute best with managing both departments, but I personally think we need those things. We need a good idea of what the cost will be, what projects we're going to have to give up, like water monitoring. We don't do much of that. And how are we going to address water quality without doing that? And with that, we're going to need more staff with stormwater. And also, we have a lot of, inspections and other things that need to be upkept. We're talking about a grade all. That's $250,000. Also, when I first sat here, the grade all that the highway department had was in bad rapport. So, but also at that time, they weren't allowing us to use it. So we actually bought one to offset the fact that we had to do the ditching. A lot of these are large dollars. And I guess my real thing is I would love to see like a long-term capital improvement plan. And if we're addressing this, how that would impact it, and have that kind of foresight of how these dollars are going to be spent over the next 5-10 years, because we're getting into the millions of dollars if we think about 20 years from now.
Okay, the projects that I'm talking about are not capital improvement projects. They are not the $1 million projects. And when I look at the overall picture, I have to think about also what is in the Cume Bridge budget for federal aid projects and bridges. And that's a 4-man crew that is putting in 77 pipes in 4 months. And then also I do have to look over here at a stormwater crew that has a 7-member crew that's put in 10. And it's the cost of these is less than, I want to say $300,000 for the whole year. So I'm not trying to take away from any capital improvement project. I'm just trying to make it work for our smaller in-house projects that can make it work between both crews. I'm happy to give it all back to stormwater, but I'm trying not to do that. That's where it used to come from. But we've stepped up. I don't want to get into, somebody else wouldn't let somebody use a grade all, and that's why we bought it. We work all well together.
Right. No, that's a historic issue.
Keep that momentum going, and we've stepped up with the bridge crew. Using all of our labor forces, and I'm just asking for a little bit of material assistance, not any capital improvement project.
Well,
I'm talking
think
about
too,
having that plan revised, and sorry, we created a little dialogue. I thought it was fair enough for me to finish. No, I know. Sorry to I shouldn't say historic because it's not that old. But my point being is, we have to work in some type of like harmonious like concert with highway. And my real thing is like if we're looking on taking a $300,000 recurring expense, like that's going to be significant at a certain point. And if we put dollars to one thing, one project is going to take away from another project. So
my goal was splitting those costs between 2 crews, the materials, not throwing it all onto stormwater. That was not my goal, never would be. I was just trying to use both budgets to buy materials to improve the drainage on these roads that we're paving.
Right, and then the far out thinking the 5, 10, 20 years does become a significant amount. So thank you. That was the first actual dollar amount I heard at this conversation. And I'll pause, but I guess you get my position that I just want to understand a bit more, have more information so I can really make an informed decision, because as everyone knows, I've really been an advocate of trying to do water monitoring and water quality efforts, and this could take away from that. And we do have quite a bit of fixed expense already on our stormwater budget with personnel, and then also our maintenance and maintaining our vehicle and fleet. I'm good. I can stop. I just wanted to conclude what my comments were.
I believe Commissioner Githens has something she would like to say.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Enright that we do need to see the hard numbers, but I also have learned that if we take care of these pipes correctly, it really helps prolong the life of the roads as well. And so I think that we have to consider what's best overall for the county, and I like the fact that Ms. Ridge is bringing this forward now, long before we start our budgets.
Yeah, she's actually doing us a favor, and I think that's something that needs to be commended. And I did have a question that I'd posed and I hadn't heard the answer yet. So I'm wondering if you would address your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think the crew needs clear guidance on what will be implemented. So previously, if we had a rule where pipes of a certain size would be the responsibility of one crew and the other crew, so that there's no question if a request comes in, there's no negotiating, and everyone knows what their job is. That's one thing I really want to make sure we work out, Lisa, is having clear guidance for the crews. I think this year I can definitely help out. We definitely have room in the backfill line, assuming no more bank erosion issues pop up. But yeah, happy to help out this year, but I think talking about 2025 budget, I'd be interested just to see how it fits in with some of the capital projects, Strip Road and Morse Creek Road specifically. But I think there's definitely our ability to help with good planning. So,
thank you. Are there any further comments or questions? If not, we'll move on to the next order of business, which is an amended MOU with Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation District from the Stormwater Partnership Grant Program 2024. Ms. Satonia?
yes, we have Martha on, and she's not a presenter, so if you'd like to hear from her, she will be able to speak. So after our April board meeting, where we passed this original MOU for the 2024 grant funding, Martha and the SWCD board met that evening and had a few additional comments that they would like to see, and so I thought they were significant enough we needed to take this back for board approval. I've highlighted the changes I made in the MOU. The first one, I added in the $5,000 that was added into the motion last month. There's another section regarding invasive species control that they would like to incorporate some of those projects into the grant program. Number 11 is the big change, where they're looking at defining maximum amounts for these projects. And it's changed from before. Previously, the cap on projects was about $2,000. And they're proposing increasing the maximum amount to $3,000, and then had some individual examples of some variations from that. But in general, I support this increase. I see that costs are increasing with inflation over the years. This cap hasn't gone up in a while, and I'm in general supportive of these changes. So I'll let Martha speak if you'd like.
Martha? Would you like to add anything? I believe you're muted.
She unmuted. We can't hear you, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, you're very, very muffled.
You're muffled online as well.
Is that better?
It's very weak.
Martha, one way that maybe could be helpful is the same way I'm approaching this, and just dial in with your phone and talk through your phone. I saw our secretary, Donna, came off video, and I was just going to say hi. I've been out of the office all day. Haven't got to see her in person.
Martha, you might want to make sure you turn the sound off on your laptop also, so that you don't get feedback, audio feedback, if you've got your phone working.
I would really wonder if there could be like maybe a work session for the Stormwater Board in the near future to discuss the item that Lisa brought up. I really hate trying to kind of think out loud on the fly. This was the first that we heard about it. I know she's going to present more information, but I feel like it's a large enough discussion that merits kind of maybe a special meeting where we could just really kind of talk about it a little more loosely, because you know, I know when dollars start getting involved, you know, in wanting to get projects done, it brings additional pressure, because everyone wants to do a good job, and I understand that. And I just hate having to have these conversations once a month on the fly, and I would really love if the board would be willing to kind of think about having a special meeting to discuss this, where it can kind of flow a bit easier, because I do want to support Lisa in her efforts. I know she's doing her absolute best to balance this, and I think it would just create a better environment to have these discussions. And also I'm attending online, which isn't something I typically do.
It's okay, Tron. We'll make it work on our ends, and we'll get more information out there and see how we can make some changes within the department to make it work for everybody. So I didn't mean to throw a topic out there that became complicated, that I really thought was a small topic at this point, but anyway, no problem. You guys have
it absolutely could be, you know, just yeah. I'm thinking in real time.
You're good.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Okay, I'm on my phone, so we'll see how this works. Sorry about that. I don't actually have a laptop. I have to use my personal iPad, and yeah. Anyway, so the Soil and Water Board met. Our meetings are on the Wednesdays after Stormwater Board meetings. And the board has talked about wanting to kind of hone in a little bit on some certain things. And some of the projects that we give $2,000 to CAP really don't need $2,000, rain gardens being one of those. Most of those could be capped off at $1,000. Actually, probably a lot of them even less than that. And then we'd already established that cover crop was doable for a 3-year period, because that's what you need to do to maintain that cover crop and make it work. Another area that is kind of an ongoing process would be like an invasives project. And because there's maintenance with maintaining those invasives projects and trying to keep those invasives at bay, the board would like to, so we would like, if a landowner come in here and they did have an invasive project and the board approved that as one of the grants, it would be a 3-year process with $1,000 cap each year to address whatever their invasive issue would be. Likewise with cover crop, that didn't change. It'd be a 3-year process with $1,000 cap. We've not done any cover crops for a very long time, just because at one point in time that was kind of an issue. But now with carbon sequestration and things like that, I think that's an area we'll probably try to encourage guys to do more. And then the other is the cap of moving from $2,000 cap to a $3,000 cap. Still 25-75% split. There has to be a 25% buy-in by the landowner. But the cap of $3,000, we just are seeing an increase in a lot of supplies, you know, gravel. As Highway can attest, when you're doing any sort of, you know, underground piping or anything like that, there's just a lot So yeah, that's what they're asking. The log jam removal project was one that we also, you know, the cap would need to be 3,000 for us to approve that one. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or comments? If not, is there anyone in the public who would like to make a comment? If you're in the Nat U Hill room, you can come up to the microphone at the table here, or online, please raise your hand. Yeah, we should probably have a motion.
I move that we accept the amended memorandum of understanding with the Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation District as part of its Stormwater Partnership Grant Program for 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And there does not appear to be anyone from the public. No further comments or questions from the board. Then, Ms. Satonia, would you please do a roll call vote?
Penny?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes?
Tron?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Martha.
And the next item of business is the stormwater management ordinance discussion. Ms. Satonia.
Yes. So yesterday we had a drainage board meeting. The Stormwater Management Board was invited to attend so we could review the proposed new stormwater management ordinance and start addressing your questions for ahead of possible passage on June 5th. So I wanted to take some time as well now to see if you had any additional discussion or comments on the draft ordinance. This can be related to procedures, permitting, applicability, standards. I'm open to discussing it at this meeting since most of my previous discussions have been with the drainage board so far. So let me,
questions, comments? Julie?
Yeah, so this was raised yesterday, and I do think we need to move forward. And again, thank you for all the hard work in getting us to where we are now, and I know we have a deadline. So I think it's important to move forward and not fail when it's really good if we're looking for perfect. But I will say that I do think we need to have a discussion about slope and erosion and where it belongs. If it's in this, I still feel like it belongs in the stormwater ordinance, not the planning. And the other thing that I will say is that I'm hopeful that everyone is open-minded and willing to be flexible, because I think one of the other things we should do is make sure that we are meshing definitions between the county development ordinance, which is not done yet. And so when that's done and we have definitions, I would like to see them mirrored. So for example, I know that our definitions in planning and stormwater are not the same for how to measure slope. And I think that wording could be identical in some cases, and if not, a close sibling. So I think that's something we should do, you know, as the county development ordinance is done. I would like to come back and review some of those definitions. Nothing is standing out to me as like, oh, we've got to address, whatever. I think the one thing that became apparent to me, and I think you as well, Commissioner Githens, is that the karst, addressing the karst issue is huge. And I think one of the earlier discussions we had was about, you know, retention ponds and how long they've been there and how are they being maintained and who's inspecting them. And I feel like karsts are going to be another one of those. And I think because we're, believe it or not, it's May, but we are going to be thinking about budgets very soon. I think we need to look at an additional inspector, and perhaps that person is somebody who is tracking down these karst features, looking at agreements made in the planning process. Oh, we'll leave it undisturbed, or we won't, and then following up on those, and just on a regular schedule, making sure, because the impacts are huge. The impacts are huge. So those are the, I'm great with what was discussed yesterday. I know it's not in the document yet, but I think everything was really good, and I felt like I think we're in a really good place, and I know, but I do know we have a deadline. So thank you.
Commissioner Givens?
Yes, I agree that I think we need to be looking at an additional inspector, and I know that I've talked with Ms. Satonia about that a little bit already. I'm also concerned that we know that we have HOAs here in the county who have not properly kept up their detention ponds especially, and so if there are creative ways that could be suggested to the board about how we might do that, deal with it, I would appreciate it. And then we know that we may be having more severe weather coming through based upon climate change, and I raised this yesterday. Is a Class C violation sufficient for the kinds of problems that could be caused if people do not follow these stringent guidelines, that maybe it should be a Class B violation? I know that Mr. Schilling, who's here with us, explained to me that this is per violation per day, so that it could be that there are 3 violations going on at the same location, which would triple what goes on. But I guess I want to see good compliance and good enforcement. So, yeah. But otherwise, I think you've done a fabulous job, I have to say that.
Mr. Enright Randolph? Do you have any?
Yes, hi. Yes, I could lower that hand. Oh, there went my Word document. So instead of trying to think out loud yesterday, and thank you, everyone, this kind of goes back to my, actually, I'll hold on this comment. This will be my second one. I actually want to agree with Commissioner Thomas that slopes in the stormwater ordinance, I think, is a great point. This would highlight the environmental need, the protections in the impact versus what developers can and can't do. And I think rethinking the way that we have an ordinance around that could really show that, we're not trying to limit necessarily what developers can and can't do, but we're trying to protect those sensitive environmental areas. So I just really wanted to express my thoughts and support on doing something like that, because I really think it will create a new way of people thinking about why we have these protections. So my second comment goes back to kind of what I was discussing yesterday, and I'm going to push back just a little bit on our legal counsel. I do think that we could write in this ordinance that any change to the technical document, the specifications document, or the best management document that are referenced in our ordinance, that any change should be reviewed and have a recommendation from the Drainage Board. Since we're not asking for it to have an authoritative approval process, just a recommendation, I think that there are a lot of things within this ordinance that actually has the Drainage Board weighing in, and some of them are waivers. So like, I do not think that we would be prevented from putting in language that just simply says that any of those changes shall be reviewed by the Drainage Board, and then it'll move to the Board of Commissioners for adoption, regardless of what their recommendations may be. It's going to be upon the commissioners to adopt. But I strongly believe we should add that language before we look at moving it, or I guess the timeline right now, and that's the whole thing, is it's just going to show up at the June 5th meeting for adoption. So I really think that this is a great way of moving forward in involving some of our experts. We have drainage engineers, geologists, and other folks on the board and a drainage board. And I think we can add this language without needing to amend the drainage code, because we're not looking for an authoritative body. We're looking for a recommendation from people that, you know, spend their livelihoods in this area. That's my comment. I hope to gain support, and I hope that we recommend or direct staff to add that provision in this. And you know, I would motion such and see if we even need a motion or just, you know, direction to the staff. But, you know, I'll pause there and see where my colleagues are.
So I think I thought this had been kind of settled yesterday at that meeting, but I was watching it via Teams, and the transcription was hilarious at times, but so not always meaningful. But I just in general, and maybe this is something Mr. Schilling can answer for us. Just in general, if once this Chapter 761 is okayed, and it becomes the new thing, if there are any text amendments to this, does it always go Drainage Board, Stormwater Board Commissioners to get a text amendment, or what is the order? How does it go? Because I know what it is in planning, and I just wanted to see what it is here.
Yeah, there is no order.
He needs to come to a mic.
Sorry. There's lots of green lights there for you, sorry.
Thank you. Yes, there is no statutory or ordinance order, so it's just an ordinance of Monroe County.
Okay.
If you would like to have an order, you could put that in the Drainage Board ordinance to say they will review these, or, you know, your stormwater rules you could adopt.
Yeah. What do you all think about this? Because I could see that requiring input or advice, because it is advisory, requiring advice from the Drainage Board and the Stormwater Board before it goes to the Board of Commissioners is a lot, and that can add a couple months to a process. So I'm wondering what you all think about it. I'm kind of torn on this.
Well, when it comes to stormwater, I mean, we make up most of the Stormwater Board, and it comes to us in the end anyway. And
Yeah.
that would certainly make the process a lot easier if it,
Well, and also the surveyor attends the Drainage Board meetings.
Right.
And that's the only person that's not on the Board of Commissioners, so there would be an opportunity for him to have input.
So
Certainly.
So what if we did Drainage Board but not Stormwater Board, and then to the Board of Commissioners?
I like that.
What do you think about that, Ms. Thetonia, in terms of timing?
Yeah.
And
I think that would definitely streamline things to not have to go through 3 approval processes.
Yeah.
Having
Yeah.
2 or 1 for recommendation of approval and then directly to the Board of Commissioners. I do want to note that Lee is also our commissioner on the Drainage Board, so Tron and a commissioner serves on the Drainage Board, so that is half of the Stormwater Board. And
that's true. This is true. Yeah, and that way everybody's included in some, from this board in some form or fashion.
Yes.
So, Tron, what do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm in full support. And that's one reason I really want the Drainage Board involved, because it's a group outside of us already, because we're already working with a stormwater program. And it just allows, you know, some people, you know, with great insight to add their thoughts. Also, I'll mention we would just be a recommendation body too as a stormwater board, and I would have a vote on that, but I don't need a vote. I'm a non-voting member in the Drainage Board, so you know there is no personal gain for me bringing this up, other than allowing one other body to discuss the merit of some of the proposed changes. So I am absolutely in support, and I probably could have said a lot less. So.
Sounds like we all agree that
Yeah.
this needs to be what gets written in, so if you could.
But should it be written into the stormwater ordinance, or should it be written into the drainage ordinance?
Or both.
Drainage board ordinance, or both?
We can leave that to our legal scholars and just ask that it be done. Do you see any issues with doing that, Mr. Schilling?
I do not, but I think it would just go through the Stormwater Board to assign them that responsibility.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
I'm not the I mean the Drainage Board, I'm sorry.
Okay,
The
okay.
Drainage Board.
Oh, okay. I was like, well, that's interesting. We'd have to tell them that that's their job. Okay. No, all right. I'm picking up what you're putting down. All right. So however it can happen, I think we all seem to concur that that needs to be added. And then this is coming next to the Board of Commissioners, June
June 5th.
5th. Okay.
And I can discuss it at the work session the week prior.
Right. That's
in
what
a
I was going to
couple
ask, is if you'd be willing to do that. And
Yes.
I think much like we do with planning, if you could take people through an explanation of it. I know it takes some time, but I think it would be worthwhile because it will be a public hearing on June 5th, and that's for the public's edification, that they can submit comments online, email, or they can attend the meeting via Teams or in person on June 5th to offer their commentary on this very important document.
I certainly agree with that. And so this isn't really anything we need to take a vote on. If everyone has had their say, we can move on to staff reports. Martha, are you still there?
No, Martha didn't have a staff report.
Oh, okay.
So I listed her just in case.
Okay, smart. Right, Ms.
Smart.
Antonia.
So smart.
I have just a brief report. I think last month I went over some of the projects I'm working on. Right now, the status of the Moores Creek Road project, we have it out to bid, and we can open bids Thursday next week. Notice to proceed will have to wait until Duke gets their easement for their relocation. We're working through that. So the start time is not entirely known at the moment, but we're trying to expedite that. Let's see, South Rogers Street, we have a large culvert replacement project occurring, and we've completed the design on that and getting ready to start coordinate and order materials for that. So that's going to be 36-inch reinforced concrete pipe replacing an existing culvert under South Rogers Street that's connected to an existing kind of a manhole, kind of something that was just created in the past. So we'll be replacing it with a real manhole, and then just replacing the infrastructure and kind of just improving it to make it better quality. And yeah, so that will be quite a bit of money for materials, and our crew will do that installation. So that's a big one I have coming up soon. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions on any other projects you have questions on.
I know that you are in the loop and well aware of the massive city planning project, Sudbury, and I want to thank you for staying on top of that, because there's been a lot going on. I don't know how to ask this question, but I'm just curious about what you think the impact's going to be on county stormwater, and if there's any assistance that's needed to help ensure that that impact is not negative.
It's a significant development, and all I know right now is that they have agreed to use the same release rates that we require of new development. It would be interesting to see impacts of extreme rain events. This is something we discussed with the Trails at Robertson Farm to see, well, what would happen for a rain event greater than that 1% chance, 100-year event. What would things look like at that point? So that's something I'd be interested in looking at as they get into approvals and design. I'm also interested in phasing. Active construction of that magnitude can certainly have impacts, especially before your infrastructure is fully installed. So that time period is going to be crucial to ensure that they have temporary measures that are adequate, installed and maintained properly. That's beyond my control, but that's all I can hope for is that the city does their due diligence. So I have faith in the staff reviewing the stormwater there, but.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the key issue, and I know that we already are in a sensitive part of the county in terms of stormwater right near that area, and I know that that's a real issue, and so I just wanted to raise this because I appreciate your follow-up and keeping an eye on this, but it's much like what happens in county planning. When you get into some of the first phasing and the first build out, it's not at public meetings. These decisions are made by staff, which makes sense because otherwise we'd be having, 17-hour meetings instead of 4-hour meetings. But I would appreciate if they would stay open to it, to, keeping you in the loop and listening to what you're seeing out there. And I know the county non-city residents in that area appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, I was going to ask Ms. Titonia if there's any way that we could connect with Liz Irwin at Duke for help with that easement, because she does a lot of public facing work, and maybe sometimes it's good to remind Duke that when they came to the Board of Commissioners several years ago for an easement across a property that we own on the north side of town for the Visit Bloomington facility, they asked us for an easement and we provided it immediately, basically. And so we would really appreciate same consideration.
I will say Lisa's been in touch with Liz a lot.
Good.
They're both working very hard to try and move this along.
Great. Tron, do you have any questions, comments?
No, I will say, as a representative of the Plan Commission to the City Plan Commission, I really push towards making sure that they follow some of our strenuous release rates. Also making sure that we have that infrastructure up front. They've committed to a lot of these things, but as development occurs, that's when we have to really pay attention and making sure that, things are being installed and put in place. Yeah, it's a big project. I'll say the first discussion I had, they were wanting to approach in some of the riparian buffers and even some of the jurisdictional wetlands, and they walked all of that back when I started citing quotes from Hamilton County that they just didn't want to even entertain those ideas anymore. Not quotes, but ordinances. They have some pretty significant wetland protections in Hamilton County that the county surveyor helped draft. So, yeah, I think today, if I'm not mistaken, is when the Common Council is going to take this up for potentially the final discussion. So they haven't fully approved it. It's still being discussed at the Common Council level. Just figured I'd share some of my insight and involvement with that project, because Commissioner Thomas is absolutely right. That could have some pretty significant downstream impacts, and we need to be pretty aware of that. And I know we all share those same kind of concerns and thoughts. Thanks for asking, Commissioner Jones.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to thank you for keeping an eye on that, and it is going to affect the county, and it would be very nice if the city would keep that in mind as they move forward with their plans. And having said that, if there's nothing else,
Is our next meeting the 12th because we're not going to be here?
that's right. It is, it's planned for the 12th.
Yeah.
Can we replan that?
Can we reschedule it?
Yes, we can.
I have my own way of talking.
We understood everything you said. You're good.
We have a meeting scheduled July 10th, but if something comes up between now and July 10th, would you like to reschedule one in June for either the 19th or the 26th of June?
I mean, we could make either of those work. It's just, yeah, 12th is a bad day.
Yeah, just let us know which is going to be best for you.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Will do.
Yeah, and if we don't need to meet, then it'd be fine with us
Yeah.
to not meet. I'm sure you'd be fine with that too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, you can definitely expect a draft budget in July, for sure.
Okay,
So,
good.
Great.
Yes, well, thank you very much.
all right, thank you all.
We're adjourned.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.